So who would you say is the number one liquidity provider in Nigeria?
One Liquidity.
One Liquidity, of course.
I believe One Liquidity is going to get there someday.
I must say, like, their services are good and sweet.
Let me leave that to the users to judge.
Hey, I'm going to say One Liquidity, right? So we go from there.
One Liquidity isn't just talking innovation. We are walking the walk with impressive figures that showcase impact on Africa's financial landscape. Here are some key numbers that speak volumes. $5 billion plus in transaction, $10 million plus in monthly credits and loans, $500 million plus in B2B payments. These numbers translate to real progress. Businesses have access to the resources they need. Trade flourishes and Africa's economic engine gains momentum. One Liquidity impressive numbers are just the beginning. By choosing One Liquidity, you are not just partnering with a financial service provider, you are joining a movement driving positive change across Africa. Sign up for a demo account today. One Liquidity is
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another episode of the One Liquidity webinar. We're very excited to have you join us today. We have an amazing guest for you today. I am going to introduce him very soon. We're very excited to see you here today. Tell us in the comment section if you're here. Tell us, where are you watching from? I'd like to know where you're watching from. I'd like to give you a shout out. We're very excited you're here. If you're curious about AML compliance around crypto, around businesses, small, medium businesses, we're very excited to have you here. Welcome to our webinar. Topic of this webinar is compliance challenges and solutions, AML for emerging businesses. It's an interesting topic. We got the best of the best to have this conversation with you all today. And we're very excited and lucky to have him join us today. All right, so today we have Martin Nally with us today. Hi, Martin.
How are you? Thanks so much for the introduction. I'm doing well. I just want to thank everybody for joining at 7 p.m. Nigerian time as well as Dublin time to learn more about compliance, because that's quite rare. So no, I truly appreciate everybody joining, and I hope everyone takes a lot out of this meeting. So thanks again for the introduction.
Amazing. Tell us, Martin, what's the weather like in Dublin currently?
So we get about 2 weeks of summer. So currently in Dublin, it's raining as usual. Dublin and Scotland, I think, are the two countries in the world that rains the most. So let's just say it rains quite a lot. Quite opposite of Lagos. So yeah, that's currently the weather.
So that's cool. That's cool. All right, so we have some people here with us today. So we have Bukoye Samson Olamide. So Olamide Samson is watching from Nigeria. Welcome, Olamide Samson. It's great to have you on the show today. Hi, Splendid. Splendid is watching from the UK. We have Ayomide Bello. Ayomide Bello is watching from Nigeria as well. We're very excited to have you guys. Come on, guys, still drop your comment in the comment section. Tell me where you're watching from. I owe you a shout out. All right, so while we're waiting for more people to join, Martin, tell us something interesting about yourself. What do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, so definitely one interesting thing that I think would relate to, that would separate myself from others is, so I've worked in 8 different countries. So that's, kind of a big thing in regards to legislation and getting used to working for different countries. I worked in Bermuda. I've worked in the US. Currently, obviously, I'm in Ireland. I've worked in the Cayman Islands. So quite a diverse background. I love to travel, of course. And then in regards to sports, I don't know if I'm originally from Boston in America. So we're definitely big sports fans, basketball, American football, and I'm recently, while I moved to Ireland, I've been getting into soccer. So, my favorite team is the Tottenham Spurs, which I'm sure you don't hear much of, but that's my team right now.
That's interesting. So I just have to ask, tell me, what is one interesting country you have visited for someone who likes to travel?
Yeah, so I would say I've been to Colombia 4 times. So during my honeymoon, we were in Colombia, and then also just I did 1 week teaching English. I speak a little Spanish. I used to be fluent, but I went down there for a week to teach English there, just to kind of get to understand how it is out there, and the reputation as dangerous is definitely not what it was like. So definitely Colombia would be up there, in Bali, Indonesia as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. The Southern America. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. So tell us about your work experience. So what's it like? Tell us some interesting things you've done for.
Yeah, so I've been in the compliance industry for 14 years, and I've been in crypto probably since in college. I've been interested in it, so I've always had my investments in crypto, and kind of always believed in it. One thing that stood out for me was the CEO of Ripple Labs, Brad Garlinghouse, and this is when I first got introduced to crypto and kind of thought about it. Is what he said was, in regards to sending emails, it takes a second, 2 seconds, or a WhatsApp message, it takes 1-2 seconds. Why can't money get transferred over in 2 seconds? And so that always stuck out to me. And obviously on the weekends you can't make a transaction. Swift payment started in the 1970s, and there hasn't been a new form of it. PayPal takes charges. So that's kind of what always intrigued me about crypto. But my work experience, I've worked at the Big Four, so a lot of Ernst & Young, PwC, and then 2 different crypto startup companies as the MLRO. So definitely have a broad experience. I've also worked for Paddy Power, for Flutter Group, which is based in Canada. So Flutter Group does Paddy Power, Betfair in the UK. So I was the head of compliance there. So definitely had a broad experience of different sectors, but always had a passion for crypto. And then in a new One Liquidity would be the perfect fit for myself.
Amazing. That's great. It's great to learn all of this from you, Martin. We have more people joining in. Exciting. We have Ayomide Iyande. She's watching from Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome, Ayomide.
Welcome.
We have Irolua Arasi. She's watching from Nigeria. And we have Catherine Gitonga. Catherine is watching from Kenya. Yes. Welcome, guys. We're very happy to have you guys today. So we'll have to move very quickly so we don't have to spend a lot of time. So we're just going to jump right into it. So tell us, Martin, what is compliance and AML?
So compliance is basically being able to, when you onboard a client specifically, you're going to go through for traditional banking, you're going to go through the process of giving your ID card, your KYC information, we call it. So know your customer. So compliance basically makes sure that, we have all the information on file. And the importance of that is when you get audited by either external or internal audit, that we have all the information that's required pending the jurisdiction. So for example, the Nigerian government makes sure that, they want to have all the valid IDs, passports, or whatever you provide that we accept. And AML stands for Anti-Money Laundering. So that's basically being able to rest assured that we're bringing in customers that aren't involved with any corruption, but also, have that, trustworthy, and that goes through a screening process. And I'm sure I'll dive more into that as we go on with the questions.
That's exciting. Thank you so much. So the next question we have for you, Martin, is what are the main AML challenges for new businesses?
Yeah. So, I think everyone probably knows it's the consistent changes of regulation. They change literally on a weekly basis. And there's a lot of countries, for example, that are very behind or they're completely against crypto. So, the US is starting to pick it up more. But in regards to the EU, I think the UK was the first country, the UK was the first country to start, accepting it and kind of realizing it. But it's definitely the continuous changes on a weekly basis. So you constantly have to be aware. And that's where I think, the younger generation, you're not going to find many MLROs that kind of understand crypto the way the younger generation does. And you're seeing banks get involved. Now you see the Bitcoin ETFs, the Ethereum ETFs. And so I know that's a massive thing for banks to start being involved because there's such a strong push against it. And now you're seeing a lot of adoption. A few other things would be the VASP license. So the MLRO, my current role here with One Liquidity, you need an MLRO to be able to get a VASP license, which is it's virtual asset service provider license. So that allows you to trade crypto across country. So we currently have one in Canada. We use a third party to get that license. And now we're looking to grow and expand and, make sure that we can turn this into, as great of a company as we possibly can. So definitely that's the reason why each firm has an MLRO. You need that to get your VASP license, and certain countries are more strict than others. So you want to always be able to kind of put a package together in regards to being able to send that to that government and get a VASP approved.
Oh, right. That's exciting. So you keep saying MLRIO. So I'm not sure a lot of people understand what that means. So tell us what's the full
Yeah,
meaning.
so MLRO. So it's the money laundering reporting officer. So what that individual does is, so if there's a suspicious activity report or a suspicious activity memo, I would be going to the government in regards to, say, if we had an individual that had been screened and my compliance team found that that individual had been, arrested for money laundering previously. So that individual, when they're trying to onboard, would get screened. I would then know that they've been in trouble previously with the government, that wherever jurisdiction they're from, and I would be reporting that to the proper legislation or the proper country. So, for example, if it was an individual that was based out of Canada, for example, that had a lot of that popped up with our screening system, we'd be able to identify that individual, and then we'd be able to report it directly to the Canadian authorities.
All right, that's exciting. Thank you very much. So next question for you is, how can small businesses set up AML policies without spending a lot?
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing without spending a lot, is to have the correct, first off, obviously the correct compliance team that has the experience, has the global experience, because that's the biggest thing, is you're getting all these different investors, specifically One Liquidity, from different areas all around Africa, or if we're bringing Canadian investors on board, Polish investors. It's continuously growing, and that's one of the main reasons that attracted to me the past month to join One Liquidity, and the co-founders have such a great knowledge on understanding crypto and the ability that and growth that it has. So I think so beyond just the team, the right tools and software is by far the most important. And what really attracted me to the role was knowing the systems that we brought in place. Because I can tell you for a fact from my experience that we're using the top software that you can use to be able to onboard certain individuals. So that's something that is definitely drastic, and that will be able to, that transaction monitoring system can figure out ATM scams, fraud, politically exposed persons. So anyone involved in the government, for example, that might just have a higher risk level than your average investor. So yeah, that's what I'd say. It's a lot of training with the team. You want the team to be constantly learning, constantly seeing a different side of things.
All right, that's exciting. So we have new people joining us. We have Onyekari Harrison. Onyekari is watching from Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Welcome,
Hi,
Onyekari.
Harrison.
We have Bill Okele. Bill Okele is watching from Kenya. Welcome,
Welcome,
Bill.
Bill.
Thank you very much for the answer to that question. So this next question is exciting. So everybody keeps seeing things that happen to businesses. Oh, before we proceed, guys, if you have questions, now is a good time to start writing them down. Prepare your questions, put them in the comment section. We're moving very fast for this webinar, so we're going to be able to take all your questions very soon. So just write them down in the comment section. I will get to them in the Q&A session. So what happens to businesses? So every now and then we see that people are getting billed huge fines.
Yes.
So and that leaves small businesses curious as to what mistakes they made and how they could avoid that mistake. So the question, what happens to businesses that don't follow AML regulations?
Yeah, so basically, I'm sure everyone's seen kind of the financial banking industry, the fines that we're kind of, getting used to seeing. We're talking about like the Bank of America's, the Citibanks, and we're talking getting fined millions and millions of dollars. So there's a lot that so if you don't follow the regulations, if you don't have, for example, an MLRO on board, or if you don't have the proper training or give an annual training to the company, there is the potential of fines. So that is the importance of it. In regards to after the crash in 2008, a lot, if you've noticed, compliance was like by far the smallest group for different banks. Like I remember working at State Street Corporation, and there's probably 12 compliance analysts at the time. And once that crash happened, all the banks went after, how are you guys onboarding? How do you even know your customer, et cetera? And by the end within 3 years, we had a team of 100 analysts. So I think, it's very important, especially with this is the first new investment vehicle that we do have in a long, long time. So you can assume that, a lot of these government agencies are going to go after the new startup crypto firm. So you want to make sure you have somebody that has had audit experience. I've worked with probably 8 or 9 different external and internal audits. So you need that experience to know what they're looking for, what they want, and how you can constantly be improving and adding you want it to be streamlined for the new investors, but you also want the correct data to have when you do get audited.
All right, thank you very much. That's exciting. So our next question is, so what technology can help with AML compliance, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, so two main technology software that you need to have is the screening process. So as I was speaking before, the politically exposed person or anyone that's been sanctioned or any individual that has any corruption involved, that is the number one thing. So, you want to have a top software, which we do, of course, where we can screen each new investor and make sure that their background checks out and there's not a high risk, or we're not bringing any exponential risk to the company. And then from there, which we have, as I mentioned before, Muna brought that's probably the number one transaction monitoring system, which basically allows us to be able to look at each transaction, make sure that it gets reviewed properly. We have analysts that are constantly working on each transaction, making sure that the reviews are done properly. And if there is anything that needs to get highlighted, of course, it goes back to the MLRO. And then that would go as a SAM, suspicious activity memo, or a SAR, which is the final step. So the memo would be kind of like, we would send it to the government. They would let us know what their thoughts are. And then if it got reported, then it would be finalized with the government. So that covers that question there.
Right. Thank you very much, Paolo. That was good. So we have a few more people join us a little while back. So we had Johnson Igara watching from Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome, Johnson. Yes. So guys, like I said, if you have questions, now is a good time. Write your questions down in the comment section. You have a few more questions, and then we'll take all your questions. Take all the questions that everybody have for Paolo. Thank you very much, Paolo. So I think the next question we have is, why is staff training important for AML compliance, and how can businesses do it effectively?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, staff training for any sector of a company is important, but specifically for AML is we're in the crypto industry, so we really need to understand not only compliance, but as I mentioned earlier in the call, the constant changes that we're seeing within regulations from country to country. So the training is always the number one priority for our team. So, I mean, I'm extremely lucky. Our team has some dedicated employees that, are in their free time are doing, different training activities or attending different events to be able to keep growing and acknowledging what the AML changes are per jurisdiction. But the training, it's not just compliance, it's also the sales team, it's the communication, which is it's the most important thing in any company for it to succeed would be the compliance and sales team always need to be on the same track. So what is expected from the new investor, and then what the compliance team can bring back and be able to let them know that, okay, if we have a change in an AML policy or we have a different risk matrix that we updated with a certain country, for example, if Russia is sanctioned at the moment, let the team know that, okay, if we see a Russian client, they're considered sanctioned and we're not doing dealings with them. So that would be the main important. I think the whole company needs to understand AML compliance training, and that's one of our main goals that we're going to put into place within the next few months. Obviously, I just joined this past month, but me and Harrison, the head of compliance, are going to start giving out a full training within the next quarter.
Exciting. Thank you very much for that answer as well. All right, Martin, tell us. Now we need to hear something interesting, right? Yeah, tell us. So can you share a success story of a business overcoming AML challenges? What can we learn from it?
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, I have a few examples, but so in Bermuda, 80% of our clientele were based in Mexico. So you can imagine, and the lowest amount you could start a wealth account. This was during, Bermuda's always been a tax haven. So you would see a lot of individuals that would, set up a umbrella company or whatever it might be. So we've had some very interesting investors where, you might get a third cousin of a member that's related to the cartel in Mexico, and they're not going to pop up on the PEP list depending on what software you have. So luckily we, the company I was working for, Sun Life Financial, so it's based in Canada and they have an office in Bermuda. I was working in the office in Bermuda, and we actually worked directly with the Bermuda Monetary Authority, which is the government agency for Bermuda. And we're able to identify that it was a cousin related to a very high member of the cartel. So the challenges of that is, it could be easily slipped, but you have to do the research. You have to be able to understand, the more cases you see. Like, I've been obviously in compliance for 14 years now. So it's almost second nature when you see, within 10 seconds, you can see if a case is fishy or is, a more legitimate case. So it was quite obvious when, you see a 24-year-old try to deposit $4 to $5 million. And then you have to explain that to, the board of directors in regards to, they want the money, but at the same time, you have to do the correct job and provide the correct risk assessment for them, because there's a two-way sword. Like, you're also stopping money from coming in, but you're also, that risk reputation could be demolished, and you could have a $5 million fine, which could put a business out of business. So I think that's an interesting success story that we had. We're able to identify that.
That's an interesting story.
I got a lot of those ones.
Not everybody has a cartel story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Martin has one. That's exciting. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining. We're very happy to have you here, and I hope that you've been able to learn a few things from some of the things Martin has said. So Q&A session is going to begin in a few minutes, right? So we're going to take a break now, right? Whatever your questions you have, the video is going to come up. That's the break. So once that video is done, the next session is the question and answer session. So whatever questions you have for Martin, just write them down, and we're going to be asking him. So I would see you guys in a minute. All right, guys, welcome back. We're very happy that you are here. So right now we're going into the question and answer session. We have a few interesting questions. Thank you once again, guys, for tuning in from Kenya, from UK, from Nigeria, Lagos, Port Harcourt, wherever you're watching from. We're very excited to have you here. Sapa will have some interesting questions for you. Martin will have some interesting questions for you.
Yeah, I see a few in the comment section.
Yeah. So let's go for the first one. So we have a question from Ayomide.
Ayomide.
So Ayomide says, what transaction monitoring system would you say is among the best?
Yes. So for transaction monitoring currently, which and I'm not even being biased because we have it here at One Liquidity, but chain analysis by far, I would say, is the strongest software that you could buy. It's also probably one of the most expensive that you can get as well. So it just shows the amount of importance that Muna and Amici have put in realizing how important the compliance team and the compliance sector is for a new company. So 100%, I would say chain analysis. For checking PEPs, there's a company called WorldCheck. WorldCheck it's quite expensive, but I'd say all the larger banks and the financial institutions use it. But there's a bunch out there that all kind of gain the same information from the different lists from each country. So there's a list that gets screened, and the lists don't change, but just WorldCheck's support system. If you ever need to reach out to them for anything, they're quite good with that.
All right, that's exciting. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Ayomide and Bill, I hope that answers your question because Bill seems to be very interested in answer to that question. So you have it, chain analysis, and then you can do your research. You have a few other options as well. So we have a question from Joshua Tepipina. Joshua says, great session. How do you set up proper AML policies and guidelines, especially for startups just starting out?
Yeah. So that's a great question, Joshua. So that takes a lot of experience in regards to building out the policies. Like, for example, there's one startup crypto company that I had to build from scratch. There wasn't any AML policy set up. So based off of where you're located, so if you're based in Nigeria, there will have a template of kind of what's expected, but then you also you need to kind of do your own deep dive research. It takes a lot of time if you're starting from scratch, but definitely there are templates out there that you can kind of amend towards what your company risks assessment is. Are you focused specifically on crypto? Are you trying to get in the banking sector as well? So that would be the best. And feel free always to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have further questions. But definitely, it's a lot of work. You kind of have to have something to kind of go off of because it can take months to build it from start to finish.
All right, thank you very much, Joshua. I hope that helps. So you can always reach out to Martin on LinkedIn, and then shoot him more questions if you need more answers and guide. Very good. So we have a question from Ayomide again. So Ayomide says, what trainings or training bodies would you recommend for someone just starting out in compliance?
Yeah, so in the US, so I did the ACAMS license. There's a equivalent in every country to get a license that basically gives you a full training. Takes about, I think it's probably around 1,000 USD in the US. I know that at least. And if you have the ACAMS, I would say that would cover any country if you do have that, and that would definitely stand out on your CV in regards to that you've gone to the steps to try to get that certification. It's not difficult. I would say I think it's once every week. You'll have a 2-hour call, and it will last for about 6 months. But once you have that certification, it'll put you up front in regards to job applications. So yeah, just try to look out to your closest kind of certification that is specific to compliance and AML. There's also, you could do a master's degree. I did my master's degree in Ireland for international security and forensic accounting. So that was the closest that I had in regards to specifically to compliance, that master's degree.
Thank you very much, Martin. I hope that helps. So I have another question from Bill. What are your thoughts on blockchain intelligence group? Have you ever used their system?
So blockchain's intelligence group, I've never used the system. I've heard of them, but I've never used the system. I'll take a look and get back to you, Bill, if you want to add me on LinkedIn. But I've heard of the name, but I've not used their system.
All right. Okay, we have one from Danny here.
Hey, Danny.
So Danny says, "Hi, Martin. We have recently seen the US Fed dish out some substantial fines in relation to AML control deficiencies and sanction violations. Any advice for non-US firms to help avoiding the same issues?"
Yeah, so in regards to, okay, so recently US Fed issued some substantial fines in relation to AML. Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely following up on kind of what I was speaking about earlier. I think, what you saw with the banks and how they went after the banks, because it's a new investment vehicle, it's becoming more adopted within the banks. You're seeing the ETFs. I think the best way would be to, have as much knowledge in regards to the KYC, know the clients, expect as much, or try to obtain as much information as you can without pushing away some of the newer investors. Because I think that's the most important thing, because when they do come, because eventually they will come, the audit services, the big four, for example, and you want to have as much information as you can, and you want it as organized as possible, and be able to show them the different software that you're using. So that's how I would say. Obviously, the US is a lot more stricter than the EU in regards to fines that I've noticed. I think things are changing. For example, Ripple Technologies, there was a case from Gary Gensler, who was the previous head of the SEC, which they were trying to sue them to be considered a security, which obviously you get taxed more. Ripple ended up winning the case, so that was a massive win for crypto in general. So
exciting. Thank you very much, Martin. So Bill is asking, what's your LinkedIn name? Martin Ali. There you have it in the comment section. So here, Bill. So Martin Ali JR.
And then I'll put it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We are at the end of our session. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're very happy to have you here. We hope that you've learned so much as well. So in this session, you can visit our website, right, oneliquidity.com, in case you have any more inquiries. You can hit us on social media as well at OneLiquidity. You can send us messages on social media. We'll answer you on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter. Connect with us. Tell us something interesting that you've learned. Ask us a question relating to this. At OneLiquidity, we're a liquidity provider, right? So if you want to, as a startup company, a big business, you're moving money across countries, and you need a very efficient way to do that, all of us at One Liquidity will make sure that is very easy for you to do. And like we just heard Martin say, we'll make sure that you do all of that and you don't get into like compliance pitfalls and you do not incur fines that take you out of business, right? As well as tech infrastructure as well. So if you're building a finance product, whatever product that you're building that has to do with finance, we provide you with the infrastructure so you can just build and focus on marketing and scale quickly globally. Thank you so much, guys, for coming.
Michael, thanks so much for
Thank
running
you,
it.
show.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for everybody taking, your Friday
All right.
off to learn more about compliance. That's dedication right there.
All right, Martin. Any last words from you? Something interesting?
No, just enjoy your Friday, and I hope everyone had a great week of work. And thanks so much for attending. I truly appreciate it.
All right, guys. It was great to speak with you. Have a great rest of your weekend. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.
So who would you say is the number one liquidity provider in Nigeria?
One liquidity, of course.
I believe One Liquidity is going to get there someday.
I must say, like, their services are good and sweet.
Let me leave that to the users to judge.
Hey, I'm gonna say One Liquidity, right? So we go from there.
So who would you
One Liquidity isn't just talking innovation. We are walking the walk with impressive figures that showcase impact on Africa's financial landscape. Here are some key numbers that speak volumes. $5 billion+ in transaction, $10 million+ in monthly credits and loans, $500 million+ in B2B payments. These numbers translate to real progress. Businesses have access to the resources they need. Trade flourishes and Africa's economic engine gains momentum. One Liquidity impressive numbers are just the beginning. By choosing One Liquidity, you are not just partnering with a financial service provider, you are joining a movement driving positive change across Africa. Sign up for a demo account today. One Liquidity isn't just talking innovation.